There you have it, C.J. Mosley, D.J. Reed, followed by the man under center, Joe Flacco, entering Cleveland as the Jets looking to even their mark and hit the road, taking on the 1-0 Cleveland Browns in the Buckeye State. Welcome in to Pregame Central, presented by Bud Light. Ethan Greenberg, Quincy Anunwa here in studio. We got Anthony Beck joining us virtually, Eric Allen, Caroline Hendershot, the boots on the ground in Cleveland. Quincy, you ready to roll?
Oh, yeah,
Week 2?
baby.
How we feeling?
Young guns in the studio today. The OGs are out of office. I'm feeling good about it.
All right, here we go. Let's bring in Anthony Beck joining us from wherever he is in the country. He's really in Iowa, but it's great to see Anthony as always. AB, thanks for joining us virtually.
Young guns in the studio. I like that. I like to hear those things. This is a huge opportunity, and Quincy knows this. The best week is the next week because you get to right all your wrongs. You get to correct all your mistakes. You got an opportunity to go out there and really, set the tone and set the standard of what you want to be, what you weren't possibly what you were to be the week before. So this is a big opportunity. Sometimes going on the road, getting away from the element is better for them as well.
I love it. I love your takes, AB. We're ready for a great show. Like I said, we're going to hear from EA and Caroline momentarily. But fans, you got to make sure to vote for all in or not today. Your question is, will the Jets hold the Browns to under 125 rushing yards? Of course, the Browns are number 2 rushing offense. The Jets, the number 3 rushing defense. We're going to break that all down later. But you guys ready to roll? Ready to roll? A little drum roll here in the studio?
Yeah. We're ready to go.
All right, here we go. So let's go outside of the tunnel. Let's get right out of the tunnel here as the Jets are looking for their first September win in 14 games. Of course, the green and white coming off a 24-9 loss last week against the Baltimore Ravens in MetLife Stadium. But Quincy, how did the Jets flip the script today?
Yeah, so you think about what happened last week. There was a lot of MAs on the defensive side. So if they can clean those up, there's a lot of room for growth there. I mentioned before, Lamar Jackson had a few big plays, but ultimately, if you take away those big plays, he only had 100 yards passing. Then on the offensive side, they can just clean up the protection, maybe throw in some dump passes, some short passes for Joe Flacco to get warm, the receivers to get warm, tight ends, running backs, and stick to the run. I think they can really flip the game this week.
Also, Anthony, when you hear what Quincy just said, you think about the way the Jets offense played last week, it really felt like that they were just a couple plays away from really putting together a full drive. How do you pack that up and take it on the road and start fast in week 2?
You just said it, start fast. The offensive line has to set the tone. There's some great matchups up front, but if you can pass protect and also get off the ball and push some of these defenders off, this gives you a huge advantage of setting the tone in the run game that you want. Everybody knows the Cleveland Browns, they can run the ball. That's one thing. But the Jets can run the ball too. That should be a strength for them. 2 excellent backs in the backfield. You got a rookie in Breece Hall who, again, wants to assert himself in this offense. Last week probably wasn't the best start for him, but there were flashes of some good things. And from Michael Carter's standpoint, we saw that speed and electric on the outside when he got that ball. So two backs that everybody wants to, maybe not everybody's thinking about on Cleveland's side. I want to see the 2 backs for the Jets side in this offensive line start early and start fast.
Anthony, going off of that, you mentioned the offensive line. Last week was the first week that the starting 5, at least for the first 4 games, played together. You think about George Fant moving back to the left side. You think about Max Mitchell starting at right tackle. What kind of improvement do you think you could see in just 1 week span between last Sunday and this Sunday?
I think you can see a lot. AVT played an excellent game. I think he got lost in the shuffle because of the fact that maybe across the board wasn't the best performance. The one thing I know about offensive linemen, when they watch the film, nobody likes to have a poor performance, especially guys that have played well in the past. It starts in the middle with McGovern and Fant. We talked about them. Mitchell got his opportunity. I thought he was solid in the game, but he gets some reps under his feet now and gets another chance to redeem himself. And he'll have a great matchup too versus Jadeveon Clowney. So welcome to week 2 for you, Max Mitchell. So this is what it's all about, man. You want to be great. You want to play well. You got to go against the best. And they're going to go against 2 very good pass rushers and really good interior offensive line for the Browns.
Max Mitchell became the 3rd offensive lineman selected in the 4th round or later since 1970 to start on kickoff weekend for the Jets. The first guy the last guy to do it was Jason Fabini in 1998, who ended up starting 114 games for the New York Jets. Taking a look at Joe Flacco, look at those numbers right there against Cleveland. 17-3, he's 9-1 at Cleveland. 27 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. But when you take a look at just like the quarterback landscape for these two teams, these are both teams' backup quarterbacks when fully healthy at 100%. For the Jets, you know Zach Wilson's the guy there. He's rehabbing his right knee. For the Cleveland Browns, Jacoby Brissett gets the nod for the next 10 games, including today, as Deshaun Watson serves his suspension. But Quincy, what did you think about the way that guy right there, Joe Flacco, played last week?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of different things. I think the Ravens did a really good job of disguising coverages, right? So I think it's a very good chance that the Browns may do the same thing. So it's important for Joe to really make sure that he's studying what's going on so he doesn't have any surprises. Then ultimately, I think it's really up to the receivers, the running backs, the tight ends to make sure that they're giving this guy as many great opportunities as they can, getting open, making the catches they need to make. Then that'll just help Joe's job so much better. And then you'll see towards the end of the game that he'll just continue to play well.
It's a nice thing to see that guy right there, number 2, Zach Wilson, warming up pregame at Cleveland. Again, he's not on injured reserve. The Jets wanted him to be a part of practice. He started practicing this past week, will not play today. The first game that Robert Saleh said he will play potentially would be at Pittsburgh in week 4. Anthony, Joe Flacco, you take a look at the numbers last week, 309 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 59 pass attempts, which is a very high number. But when the Jets are playing from behind, you obviously have to throw the ball. What did you make of the way that Joe Flacco played before the game got out of hand for the Jets, where they weren't coming from behind, where they had a fighter's chance to take down Baltimore?
Yeah, you're right. It got a little bit out of hand in the passing reps towards the end of the game. But for the most part, this was a pretty close game, at least for the first 2.5 quarters. Balance is always key when you're talking about winning football games. Now, it could lean one side or the other depending on the success that you have. But when you start getting down maybe 2 touchdowns, 11 points, now you got to start making decisions. Can we stay with the game plan? Do we have enough confidence what we're doing up front so that we can get the job done? And I think it all really goes back to having time. Joe Flacco is not a quarterback that's going to be able to extend a lot of plays. He can run and move a little bit. You're not going to see him run rollouts and naked passes too much. But again, that middle of the pocket, where really the Jets' offensive line should be its strongest, needs to allow him to step up and do those things. That'll be huge.
Quincy, today, Jacoby Brissett for the Cleveland Browns. You take a look at the numbers last week, 147 yards passing, 1 touchdown. Didn't turn the ball over. Of course, the Browns focus on their run game. What kind of quarterback is Jacoby Brissett, and what do you think that the Jets defense needs to do to put the ball in his hands to force him to beat the Jets?
Yeah, well, the Jets defense did a great job last week in terms of just stopping the run. They really held Lamar Jackson to not too many explosive plays. So I think it's important to continue that this week. That way, you keep that ball in Jacoby Brissett's hands. Now he has to throw the ball. Now he has to test DJ Reed. He has to test Sauce Gardner. And that's where we can see these guys really make some plays. Ultimately, I think Jacoby Brissett is more of a placeholder for Deshaun Watson. So we're not going to see him take too many chances. He's going to try to do his best to kind of manage the game.
All right, well, you know what? Enough from here in Florham Park. Let's head out to Cleveland with Caroline and EA. Guys, how's the weather out there? And more importantly, how is Brownie the Elf looking in person?
Of course, you need to start with Brownie the Elf.
Brownie the Elf wasn't all it's chalked up to be. The dog that's actually roaming the sidelines, I think, is a lot better of a mascot. But we got to get into this because the game today is going to be a good one. I feel it here. EA, the sentiment through the team all week has been, how do we clean up the mistakes and the little bit of just errors in the Ravens game on Sunday? What are the keys?
Yeah, to Ethan's first point, it's a beautiful day here in Cleveland. In fact, it's probably going to be quite hot here early in the afternoon. But with that being said, about cleaning things up for the Jets, defensively, they don't have to clean up too much on the ground. You're talking about a defense that limited the Ravens to 63 yards rushing last week, as the guys articulated here in the opening segment. That was the lowest output for the Ravens since Lamar Jackson took over as a starting quarterback in 2018. All the defense has to do is limit the explosion plays in the passing game. There were 3 touchdowns, we know about that, and also a pass interference penalty. Special teams-wise, you want to be clean in the kicking game. Greg Zuerlein, of course, missed an extra point last week, a 45-yard attempt in the first half as well. Let's see if Justin Hardy can lead a very spirited special teams effort, because Hardy, the Jets special teams captain, he's from right here in Cleveland. He is going to have a section of fans. Offensively, too, you want to have balance. The guys talked about Joe Flacco putting it up 59 times last week. The Jets actually had success on the ground. Michael Carter averaged 6 yards a carry. You have to protect the football. Can't turn the ball over. Can't have fumbles inside the red zone. And you want to stay ahead of the sticks. But all in all, the Jets had a lot of positives coming out of the game last week, but only 9 points, 4 trips inside the 50. You got to finish when you start getting into enemy territory here today.
You know, Corey Davis said the same sort of sentiment. They had some really good flashes. They just kind of kept shooting themselves in the foot. And so if they can clean up some of those mistakes, I think it should be a good game today.
EA, you know, you mentioned, or we saw earlier, Zach Wilson warming up. Just how vigorous was the workout, and what did you see from there in Cleveland? How did Zach Wilson look?
I think it looks great. He's not out here in pads, and he's not facing a pass rush, but the arm looks live. It looks to be chomping at the bit. They put him through some drills along with Chris Streveler, the preseason hero of the green and white, but as you mentioned before, Ethan, the Jets had said that we don't think he's going to be available to this team until week 4 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Of course, the Jets come back home next week, and they'll host the Cincinnati Bengals at MetLife Stadium. But he looks good. He's moving around pretty good. I was encouraged by what I saw as far as the workout out here.
Yeah, that mobility looked really good.
Awesome, guys. Thank you very much. There you have it, the game day storylines presented by Bud Light from Cleveland, Ohio. We were taking a look at the injury report right there, Quincy. Jack Conklin, the right tackle for the Cleveland Browns, he's questionable. It was reported that he will not play against the Jets. He did not play last week as he recovers from a knee injury. Just how big of a loss is that for the Cleveland Browns offensive line that you know wants to pound the rock?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a big deal. I think anytime you lose a significant guy on the offensive line, it's going to kind of mess with the chemistry. You saw it last week for the Jets, so there's a possibility it'll happen again with the Browns this week. And the Jets pass rush has done a pretty good job of getting to the quarterback. You saw Jermaine Johnson get his first sack last week. So look for that to happen again. Look for them to test whoever the backup is.
On the flip side for the Jets, Anthony, a lot of guys are listed as questionable. One guy who is doubtful is tight end C.J. Uzomah. What type of loss if he cannot go? And if you're doubtful, you're most likely down. What kind of absence do you think that Uzomah will, not provide, but what kind of absence is that in the Jets offense?
Well, that's yet to be determined, right? He didn't really have much of anything in the pass game. From a blocking standpoint, it becomes a factor because that's probably where they use him the most in week 1. It's going to give some other opportunities to guys like Jeremy Ruckert. I'm assuming he'll be up in this game. We'll see what that lineup looks like, but it's an opportunity for the young rookie who was down last week to really set the tone. A kid that can do a lot of things. From a blocking standpoint, pass protection standpoint, he can also catch the ball in space. So I'm excited if, he gets some reps today, see what he's got. But, Conklin was a nice piece of the puzzle at the end of the game. I like to see this tight end room establish themselves early in the game because they complement the quarterback and make it so much easier for him to get some easy completions throughout the game.
And, of course, the Jets activated Kenny Yeboah off the practice squad yesterday, along with Grant Herman. So those two guys will be up for today's game. We'll revert back to the practice squad following the game. We'll see who's up right there. Jeremy Ruckert, the rookie out of Ohio State, back in the Buckeye State, warming up in Cleveland, and we'll actually get the full inactives at 11:30 from Cleveland, from EA. But the Jets right now on the road, they return to MetLife Stadium next Sunday, September 25th, 1 p.m. to host Joe Burrow and the Bengals, presented by Pepsi Zero Sugar. Get your tickets today, nyjets.com/tickets. So moving on to our Sunday spotlight here. Anthony, I think we're going to have you kick us off. So where do you want to go in your Sunday spotlight in week 2?
Well, I already talked about the edge pressure from the Browns, but, I got to go with Myles Garrett versus George Fant. Myles Garrett against the Jets in 4 games, has 8 sacks, had 2 sacks last week to start the season off, so he's well on his way to a monster year. George Fant, one of the highest graded tackles on the right side last season in the NFL. He's got to make that tough switch, right to left, and that's been something that he really hasn't worked on much in training camp at all because of the fact that it was a late move with injuries. So as I look at this team and I see these matchups, this is going to be huge. Make Myles Garrett run the hump today. Don't let him come inside. Inside pressure is deadly. George Fant should know this. I see him to have a much better game this week versus the Browns, pushing that pocket outside and run the hoop around Joe.
Myles Garrett and George Fant definitely in the spotlight. We're taking a look at George Fant right now, warming up. The left tackle for the New York Jets. 1 point on this. Myles Garrett, 8 sacks in 4 games against the Jets. That's a career high against any opponent. So that's more than even the AFC North opponents that Myles Garrett sees twice a year. And Myles Garrett had 2 sacks last week against Carolina. Robert Saleh said he's a man on a mission. He's 3rd in the NFL last year in sacks. Is this the best pass rusher that the Jets could possibly see in 2022, Quincy?
Ooh. That's probably, definitely. You look at the schedule, I don't know if there's anybody that really has all the attributes that Myles Garrett has, right? He's an explosive guy, and you can just tell when you get out on the field that that's a guy that, he's going to give you a challenge, he's going to give you a problem every snap.
Anthony, Myles Garrett, George Fant, of course, a big matchup. What can you say about the other side, kind of what you just said? Jadeveon Clowney, Max Mitchell, what type of pass rusher is Jadeveon Clowney, and what do you think that he brings differently than maybe what Max Mitchell saw last week?
Yeah, he's got great flexibility, great bend, very quick. He looks like he's trimmed down a little bit to work on a little bit of that speed, but he will find the weaknesses of the tackle. And listen, Max, if my advice for him is get my hands on him early. If you can lock him down and jump set him a couple times and hold on to him on the interior of his body, you can control him a little better. So you got to mix it up versus Clowney. Don't let him be the one that sets the tone. And again, same thing for Max Mitchell. Let the outside pass rushers run outside and push them up the field. Make sure you're very cognizant of not allowing them to beat you inside. If your mind set not to let a guy beat you inside, you can always recover on the outside, and Joe can step up. Our best interior linemen or our best linemen are in the interior. That's got to be the way it goes today for this group up front.
Taking a look at Jeremy Ruckert on the right of the screen. Between them, opening up the chest is Sauce Gardner, the rookie corner. He had a great game last week. Quincy, your Sunday spotlight is where?
It'll be Sauce Gardner with Amari Cooper. If you look at last week, Amari Cooper was very quiet. He didn't really do too much. He got open. If you watch the film, he definitely got open, but Jacoby Brissett missed him a few times. And if you watch that Chargers game earlier in the week, you saw Mike Williams didn't have a big game last week, but they definitely fed him. He had about six catches for 100-plus yards in the first half. Look for the Browns to try to do that same thing this week against the Jets. There's a chance that they're going to try to get him early and often, especially against the rookie corner. They want to see how good he is, test him. So look for Sauce to have to really play his A game early in the game.
What about Amari Cooper last week, Quincy? Didn't really pop off the stat sheet, but obviously this is a very talented receiver who the Browns went out and traded for, and they're paying him a decent amount of coin.
Exactly, and anytime you do that, you really got to make sure, and it's a home game, right? So anytime you have a home game, you really want to get the crowd going. You got a newly acquired great receiver, a guy that you know has made a lot of plays in his past, so you want to give him as many opportunities as possible with the home crowd, get them going, get them fired up. So look for that to be a big matchup this week.
And, of course, DJ Reed, the guy opposite Sauce Gardner, had a great game as well. 0 catches on 6 targets. Sauce, 1 catch allowed, 8 yards. Anthony, this was very interesting to me, and then I'll get to my Sunday spotlight. We saw Sauce Gardner match up against Mark Andrews last week, the tight end. When you look at the personnel that the Cleveland Browns have, you think of Amari Cooper, you think of Donovan Peoples-Jones, who led the team with 60 receiving yards last week. Do you think that maybe Sauce, being a bigger-bodied corner, could see more Donovan Peoples-Jones because they have a similar frame and you would put DJ Reed on Amari Cooper? Or do you think that they're going to split halves?
Yeah, I think so. I think Peoples-Jones is the story in this game. Amari Cooper still getting acclimated. He didn't have a big send-off game to start the season off. I'm sure they're going to try to attempt to get him the ball a little bit more in this football game. But I like that. I like the fact that when you didn't get the ball to somebody, you're going to force it. That kind of gets the quarterback's mind thinking in different ways sometimes. I think that can be an advantage. And if DJ Reed's over there, he can maybe get himself another pick in consecutive weeks. But, Peoples-Jones to me is a guy that he likes. There's obviously a continuity between them early on. And I think he's a guy with great hands that can make plays downfield. Don't sleep on Peoples-Jones. It's going to be a busy day for both corners, and I love it. This is why the Jets upgraded their secondary for games like this.
Yeah, AB, that's a great point. Donovan Peoples-Jones had 11 targets last week. That's a lot of targets. That's a lot of Jacoby Brissett looking at him and knowing that that's the guy he wants to go to. So I think both corners are going to have a test this week.
Definitely, absolutely. For me, my Sunday spotlight, the Jets' rush defense, because last week they held the Ravens to 63 yards on the ground, just 11 in the first half. But, guys, the Browns ran for 217 yards last week. Nick Chubb, 141 yards on the ground. Cleveland is 17-7 when he goes over the century mark. So that's a big number there, or a very impressive number for the Cleveland Browns. And for this Jets rush defense, we'll see what they have against a different schematic offense. And for more on the Jets rush defense, let's hear from head coach Robert Saleh and an exclusive clip from Jets Game Day.
I think I know this answer, but did that group exceed your expectations in terms of what they did against the run? You just mentioned it. Baltimore Ravens since 2018 averaged more than 180 yards per game on the ground, 63 yards, and we're getting anything.
You know, I feel like we're a fast defense. I love our D-line. Love the linebackers, the safeties, the corners. Felt like Jeff Albrecht and the staff did a really nice job putting together a really good game plan that I think puts a blueprint together on what you need to do to stop that run game. And you know, so credit to those guys and credit to the players in the way it was executed. You know, you always wish you could have a couple plays back, sure. But to hold that team to 4 explosives the whole day, run and pass, zero explosives in the run game, 4 in the pass game, is a pretty big deal. And you wish it didn't lead to 24. It usually doesn't add up that way, but unfortunately it did. But if we stack those types of days up, we're going to really like the results that we get from this defense week in, week out.
Of course, if you want to see the full show, check out YouTube, NewYorkJets.com. That was an exclusive clip from Jets Game Day with Robert Saleh, Ethan Greenberg, Quincy Enunwa here in studio for Pregame Central, presented by Bud Light. Let's bring back in Anthony Beck for our scramble drill. We're going to hear from Caroline Hendershot and Eric Allen in a couple minutes for All In or Not today. But are you guys ready for the scramble drill? Quincy, you ready to go?
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, let's bring back in Anthony Beck for this as always. But, Quincy, let's start with you. Who is more important to the Browns' success? Is it Nick Chubb or is it Myles Garrett?
Oh, I think it's going to be Nick Chubb. I think the Browns are going to try to run the ball early and often, so look for him to get the ball a few times.
All right, Anthony, minute 50 left on the clock. The Browns had 4 sacks in week 1. The best way of limiting their pass rush is what?
Man, you got to get your hands on these defensive ends. I really think that if you set back and you allow these guys to get into their pass rush, that's a problem. So you got to change it up front if you're the offensive line.
Quincy, what about the best way to exploit Cleveland's defense?
Oh, I think the best way will be to target those cornerbacks. You saw last week Robbie Anderson had 100 yards. Let's see if the Jets can do that again this week.
And, of course, Robbie Anderson had that big 75-yard touchdown. The Browns have Denzel Ward, a fantastic corner in Cleveland without Greedy Williams. Anthony Beck, will Jacoby Brissett throw for more than 200 yards?
You know what? I really think that should be attainable for any quarterback in the NFL. So I would say, yeah. I mean, you know, he's got Cooper. They're going to try to get him the ball. Peoples-Jones, you know, and Njoku really didn't do anything last week. So I would anticipate them, if the Jets do well against the run, that'll be what they'll lean on. Jacoby
Brissett 5-8 when he throws at least 1 interception, 10-15 when he does not. Garrett Wilson, Quincy, will have a touchdown in the state he once called home.
Let's do it. I think he's going to happen, right? I think you saw at the end of the game last week, more towards the end of the game, he had more targets. They saw what he could do, so let's see if they start the game off this way.
All right, 31 seconds left, Anthony. Which Jet is under the most pressure entering week 2?
Wow. I would say, you know, Joe Flacco. I mean, it all revolves around the quarterback, and we talked about all the different things that make a quarterback be successful. But unfortunately, you know, with Joe, he knows that he's got to make more plays for these guys, get the ball in the weapons of the Jets and produce on offense to get them a win.
All right, 5 seconds. The Bengals, or will they be 0-2 next week when they see the Jets at MetLife Stadium?
I don't think so.
All right, so Quincy says as the buzzer hits 000, he says the Bengals are going to get a win today. Of course, they take on the Dak Prescott-less Cowboys at 4:25 p.m. Anthony, you agree with that? 1-1
Yeah,
Bengals?
I listen, they played about as bad a football as you could play and still had a chance to win that game.
Right.
I'll count on Joe Burrow all day long, regardless of how many interceptions and fumbles that he has.
Well, let me ask you guys this on a fun-related note. Anthony, we'll start with you. What do you think about the Brownie the Elf logo at midfield as voted on by the fans right there front and center in Cleveland?
It's terrible. It's weak. It makes you look soft. It makes you look soft as a team, and it kind of looks like Baker Mayfield. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about it, but it doesn't really impress me, fellas. I'd be kind of upset if I saw that. The fans in the stands all the way up top got to look at that the entire game. I don't know if I like that.
Wait, hold on one second. First of all, you said it looked like Baker Mayfield. Would you have said that if he didn't play in Cleveland?
Doesn't Baker look like an elf to you? I don't know.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. This is Pregame Central on the New York Jets channel. We're talking about a former Cleveland Brown and current Carolina Panther. If we're bringing it full circle, Baker is playing in MetLife Stadium today. He's just taking on the New York Football Giants. About Brownie the Elf, though, Quincy, first of all, what's your take? Second of all, we just saw the tweet from Tom Pelissero. If we throw that up one more time, you'll see the ball security is big time in question.
Yeah, well, I say my opinion on it, I don't really care for it. What I would like to see is maybe the Jets try to do a little jet in the middle of the field. I think that would be pretty cool.
Instead of the NFL logo?
Yeah, I mean, this is Jet Life Stadium, not MetLife Stadium. Let us, put a little something in there.
Okay, all right. Well, if you're the biggest Jets fan, the Fan of the Year contest presented by Captain Morgan is back, and we're searching for one extraordinary Jets fan. Nominate yourself or others for a chance to be crowned the Jets Fan of the Year and win a trip to Super Bowl 57 in Glendale, Arizona. To nominate yourself, someone else, or learn more, visit nyjets.com/fan of the year. This is always everybody's favorite segment of the show. It is time for All In or Not today. So let's bring in everybody. Eric Allen, Caroline Hendershot, Anthony Beck, Quincy Enunwa, and myself. Here we go. Let me just start off by saying this. Let's toss up the results from last week, including the fans. Here we go. Anthony 0-1, Caroline 0-1, EA 0-1, Quincy 0-1. The fans of the New York Jets 0-1. Me 1-0.
You're so humble to mention yourself last.
That's proper grammar, boys. All right. Anyway, I have. You know what, EA, for like as many times, and Anthony, you too, for just dogging on me for starting slow. I started fast, and I wanted a little bit of credit, so that's why I mentioned myself last. That's it. It might be for 1 week only,
I see
but
what
I'll
you
take
did
it.
there with the pun.
Yeah.
Dogging.
Yeah, that's right. All right, so here we go. Caroline, let's start with you, okay? The Jets and Browns will combine for at least 40 points today.
I am all in on this. I know I was wrong last week, but I am all in on this. I think the offense is going to come out really strong today, and I think it's going to be a really close game, and that we will combined be over 40 points. So I think it'll be a really interesting game, and I'm all in.
All right, I like it. I would like to see over 40 points.
Yeah.
That means it would be, I would hope, an exciting game and not a
Right.
lopsided one. EA, CJ Mosley, the Jets linebacker. 7 straight games of 10-plus tackles. Will he make it 8 by the time the clock hits triple zeros in a couple hours?
Half man, half amazing. CJ Mosley all in, 11 tackles last week against the Ravens. He's going to make it a great 8 today against a formidable foe with that very talented offensive line blocking for the likes of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. I'm all in, though.
I love it. Both EA and Caroline all in. Thank you guys very much for bringing the heat from Cleveland. First of all, beautiful day here in Florham Park. EA said it's a beautiful day there. Thank you very much to Caroline and EA. Anthony, Carl Lawson, 2 pressures last week. Will he record his first sack as a New York Jet?
First of all, before I give that number, talk about 2 layups to start the show right there. all not. I mean, come on, how easy can you make it? Of course, Mosley's going to get a ton of tackles. Okay, look, I'm going to say, yeah, Carl Lawson, man, he's got to be chomping at the bit. His opportunity is going to raise. I'm all in on this one. He's definitely going to get to the quarterback for sure.
Carl Lawson has a career-high 4.5 sacks against the Browns. So that bodes well for you, Anthony. Quincy Enunwa, Garrett Wilson, and Elijah Moore will have more receiving yards than Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones.
I mean, I love the Jets corners against the Browns receivers way more than I love the Jets receivers versus the Browns corners. And I say that to say the Browns corners are not going to be able to stop the Jets receivers this week. They let 100 yards go last week. It's going to happen again this week. The Jets corners are going to make sure that they're locking down those guys because they know the pass is coming. The Jets defense is going to stop the run, and they're going to have to throw the ball. Jacoby Brissett is going to have to make plays, and the Jets corners are going to stop that.
I think it's a great point. You also said Garrett Wilson earlier in the show. He might get a touchdown in the scramble drill. We snuck that one in there. For me, my all-in or not today, Joe Flacco will have at least 30 pass attempts. I'm going to go not today on this one, guys, because here's the thing. The Jets threw the ball 59 times. I think that they're going to want to run the ball, control the clock, maybe take away Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney as much as they can with the run game. Myles Garrett, obviously a big part of that. In terms of the pass rush, Michael Carter, 60 yards on the ground. I think that Joe Flacco and the Jets offense will try to run the ball, and therefore he will not throw more or at least 30 pass attempts. Now let's get to the fans, all right? We asked earlier in the show that Jets will hold the Browns to under 125 rushing yards. And, of course, this is a big number, and we got a close one. 52.7% of fans say all in. The Browns will be held to under 125. 47.3 say not today. Anthony, what's your take on this?
Man, I'll tell you, the results obviously are pretty close. Look, it's going to be a great game. This is a do or die for Jets as far as just getting back to where they want to be. We've heard it all week with Robert Saleh and this team talking about where they want to be this season, and this is an opportunity to get back on the right foot. We talked about it way in the beginning of before the broadcast. Is week 2 never correlates to week 1. You can be a completely different team if you go out there and get the job done. I'm expecting that today. So, yeah, I like it.
You agree with that, Quincy?
Definitely. I think there's going to be a great opportunity for the defense to stop the run this week. They did a great job last week, so they're going to build on that momentum. Let's look for the defense to keep making plays.
All right, so it is 11:31, which means that the inactives have been published. So let's go back out to Cleveland. EA, who is inactive for the New York Jets?
Hey, good stuff today, fellas. Ethan, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention a couple practice squad elevations from Saturday. Grant Hermans, former undrafted free agent out of Purdue. I know you're still celebrating that victory from Syracuse yesterday, Greens, but Hermans is on the active list today. And Kenny Yeboah was also elevated from the practice squad. That was your practice squad pair who was elevated on Saturday. But today's inactives, quarterback Zach Wilson, tight end Lawrence Cager, wide receiver Denzel Mims, offensive lineman Connor McDermott, cornerback Bryce Hall, edge rusher Bryce Huff, and finally a veteran here, C.J. Uzama's been battling the hamstring injury. He is out today. That means Kenny Yeboah is up.
Thanks, EA. We'll talk to you after the game, and that also means that Jeremy Ruckert will make his New York Jets debut. Makes sense, especially if the Jets want to run the ball. Jeremy Ruckert, a very good run blocker at Ohio State. For the Browns, Jack Conklin officially will not play, and that's all we have here on Pregame Central, presented by Bud Light. For Anthony Becht, Quincy Enunwa, Caroline Hendershot, and Eric Allen, I'm Ethan Greenberg, and we will see you for Jets Overtime.